What if I told you that a huge chunk of your life, who you are, what you do, even how you feel, is run by a secret, invisible code? Well, it is. But here's the cool part. You can actually learn to read that code. And once you can read it, you can start to rewrite it.
Okay, let's just jump right into this with a question. Why do you check your phone the second you wake up? I mean, seriously, think about it. It's usually before you're even fully conscious. It's not really a decision you make, is it? It's something else. It's an impulse.
This isn't some new age idea. We're talking over 2,000 years ago, Aristotle hit the nail on the head. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Our identity isn't built in these huge, life-altering moments. Nope. It's forged in the tiny, repeated actions we barely even notice.
And just how many of our actions are we not noticing? Well, researchers dug into this, and what they found is pretty mind-blowing. Roughly 40% of the things we do every single day aren't actually conscious decisions at all. They're habits. That is nearly half of your day running on autopilot. So this brings up a massive question. If you're on autopilot for almost half of your life, who's really flying the plane? Let's peel back the layers of this habit autopilot and see who's really in the cockpit. What's so fascinating here is that your brain isn't being lazy. It's being incredibly efficient. It has to be. I mean, our brains are energy hogs. They use about 20% of our body's energy, so they're always on the lookout for shortcuts. They do this by turning routines into habits, basically offloading them so our conscious mind can focus on new, more complicated problems.
In this chart, it just brilliantly shows you what's happening under the hood. Scientists put sensors in the brains of rats and had them run a maze. The first time through, as you see on the left, their brains were firing on all cylinders, just lit up. But as that action became a habit, whoosh, their mental activity plummeted. The brain essentially powers down for the routine part, only really waking up at the beginning and the end.
Okay, so if habits are this powerful and this automatic, how do they actually work? It turns out there's a simple, kind of elegant code behind every single one, whether it's biting your nails or going for a run. So let's crack that code.
Every habit, and I mean every single one, good or bad, follows this exact same neurological pattern. It's a three-step habit loop. First, there's a cue, which is the trigger. That leads to a routine, which is the behavior itself. And finally, there's a reward, the payoff, that tells your brain, hey, remember this loop? It was worth it. Let's zoom in on that first step. It all kicks off with the cue. This is the trigger that tells your brain to go into autopilot and which habit to use. And almost all cues fall into one of 5 main categories: a specific location, a time of day, your emotional state, who you're with, or an action that you just finished. Figuring out your cue, that is step 1 to taking back control.
But wait, there's a missing piece here. That 3-step loop explains the mechanics, sure, but it doesn't explain the power of a habit. Why we feel that irresistible pull. That's because the whole loop is being driven by a hidden engine.
And here is the absolute game changer. It's not the reward itself that drives the habit forward. Not really. It's the anticipation of the reward. It's the craving that your brain develops for that eventual payoff.
This craving is a seriously powerful neurological desire. As a habit gets locked in, your brain actually starts releasing dopamine, the pleasure chemical, the moment it sees the cue, not just when it gets the reward. Your brain gets hooked on the promise of the reward, and that's what makes the loop so automatic and so hard to fight.
And you better believe companies are masters at engineering this. Think about it. That craving for the fresh, tingly feeling you get from toothpaste, that was added by marketers. That little buzz from a social media notification, total craving machine. The smell of coffee brewing, these are all designed very carefully to lock that habit loop in place.
All right, so now that we've cracked the code, how in the world do we rewrite it? Well, this leads us to the most practical and powerful tool there is for changing your habits, what we call the golden rule.
The golden rule is so simple, but it is profound. You can't just delete a bad habit. It doesn't work. That neural pathway is just burned in there too deep. Instead, you have to change it. You have to replace it.
And this is a perfect illustration of how that works. You keep the old cue and you keep the old reward, but you consciously stick a new routine in the middle. So the cue is that 3 p.m. afternoon slump. The reward you're really craving is an energy boost. Instead of the old routine, grabbing a cookie, you substitute a new one, like taking a quick 5-minute walk. Same cue, same reward, completely different behavior.
This is where you have to become a scientist of your own life. Seriously,
You need to diagnose your own loop, pinpoint that cue, be really honest about the reward you're truly craving, and then experiment with a new routine that gives you a similar payoff.
I know, this can still feel a bit overwhelming, right? Like, where do you even start? Well, this brings us to our final big idea, a strategy for creating a massive domino effect of positive change. And it's all about finding your keystone habit.
The key insight here is so simple but so powerful. Not all habits are created equal. Some habits just matter more than others.
These are what we call keystone habits. They are these small, foundational habits that when you change them, set off a chain reaction. They spill over and cause other positive habits to form almost automatically. They create this incredible ripple effect across your entire life.
And you know what? They're often way simpler than you'd think. We're talking stuff like daily exercise, which just naturally leads to better eating and sleeping, or making your bed every morning, which creates this immediate sense of order and accomplishment. Even keeping a food journal, which just raises your awareness and triggers healthier choices. The real power of keystone habits is that they create small wins. And those little victories, they build momentum. They start to shift your self-image and build the belief that, yeah, you are the kind of person who can change. And that brings us right back to a core truth. The difference between who you are today and who you want to be tomorrow, it's what you do. It's not about who you think you are, it's about the habits you repeat day in and day out. So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with this one question. Forget about changing everything all at once. What is the one small win, the one keystone habit that could start your domino effect? Think about it, because that one small change, it really could change everything.